Bloom in Full Color, where we live life in high definition and in ultraviolet. Yep, we're adopting both.
Sounds great.
Jennifer Moss, Liz Hall, hanging out on a Friday in October. We just got done filming another episode. So today's episode, I don't know where we're at. I think we're on 16. I think.
I don't count.
I think that's right. I think we're on episode 16. So, how do you eat an elephant? How do you eat a cake?
Oh, I was like, because
With a
elephants are
fork?
one of like my spirit animals.
Oh, okay. So that's yeah. Don't take it in a literal sense.
But pigs
Okay,
are too.
How do you eat a
So.
cake? A whole cake.
Jameson, would be like Liz. She did this to me yesterday.
Did she? Let's hear it.
She's like, my kind husband Jeremiah brought me a grilled cheese sandwich and some fries because I hadn't eaten it all yesterday. And she looked at me and she said, "Is that going to make you feel better?" And I'm like,
Stay in your lane.
maybe. No, she's my accountability partner.
Oh, she's okay. Never mind.
And then she's like,
she was the right person to
and then
ask you that
she's-
question.
I said,
That was an important
well, it's good.
detail.
And she's like, yeah. And then she's like, but how is it on your path? And I'm like,
Ooh,
so.
isn't it?
And I look at her and I'm like, it's not.
Did you push it away?
No. I said,
You still
she's
ate
like,
it.
no.
Oh,
She came and she got my grilled cheese. There's some more conversation. And I said, okay, I won't eat it. She closed the box. She went and put it on the counter and got me food out of our fridge because we're trying to be healthy in the office, all of us. And she said, pick out of these items, put them in your counter. And once you get to 300 calories, that's what you eat. And I said, okay. And I was full and I was happy. And she put the rest back. And then she's like, now how do you feel? And I said, I feel good. Thank you. Thank you for not letting me eat the grease and the butter and the cheese and the fries and all of it.
your stomach appreciates that.
And my goal does. Like,
Yeah.
but
You know,
anyways.
we all have a weak
So not a
moment. So,
cake. Let's talk about
Okay,
a tub
so-
of cottage cheese.
well, that sounds terrible.
Oh.
I can't do dairy,
Oh,
so
that's
that's
right.
yeah. Okay, so how do you climb a mountain?
Again with the fat lady.
With boots and a lot of time and a
I
whole
was
pack of
gonna
water.
say,
Maybe I'm on the back of a
somebody
donkey.
else.
Okay, so the whole point of this is,
How do I handle a whole day of filming? Let's do that.
well,
One
so
bite
think,
at a
think of it
time.
this way. So
Uh,
what I'm trying to kind of encapsulate is there's a mountain of a task in front of you.
yes.
And when you look at it head on, it's terrifying.
It is scary.
It's scary.
It's scary.
All right. So I would say, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm trying to think back to when does this happen in people's lives? So huge projects, learning to ride a bike,
Weight loss.
weight loss. Oh God. Yeah. That's like a whole nother conversation. There's
Yeah.
so many variables and unknowns in there. Running a marathon, new work position,
Raising a family.
raising a kid, having a baby the first time.
Oh, yeah.
Oh God.
Oh,
Straight
gosh.
terror.
Oh, dear.
Straight terror. I have pardon my pun here, crotch goblins. That's not a pun. That's just a terrible
That's
way
okay.
that I
That's all right.
define children.
It's okay.
It's fine. Know that I sort of like people's children, only halfway. I like my own more. I like my friends' children. Past that, if they're kind and respectful, they're rad little beings.
Mhm.
And I'm down. If they are terrible, terrible acting humans,
Yeah.
aside from owning their own space, like I will give anyone, child, adult,
Right.
you know,
Right.
geriatric, you name it,
Right.
space to be their own human, because I truly firmly believe in that. But the second you're disrespectful and step on people, I don't
Right.
have tolerance for that, because do you want to be treated like that?
No.
Like that just
No.
sucks.
Yeah.
So, and I am also a fan of, as we go through this topic, embrace the suck, honor the struggle, because sometimes the hardest part of something big and daunting is mourning your past, like releasing that.
Yes.
That's a part of the process a lot of people don't like even acknowledge.
So I would say worse than raising children is taking care of an elderly family member.
yes.
That to
agree with
me
you.
is a bigger mountain than raising
Their
my children.
second childhood. the third
Yep.
stage of their life because they grow up, then they be an adult, and then what is Ladine, Granny B, who works in our retail. My parents are retiring or starting the process, if you will, which will come up as we go through this. But she gave him a book. It's called The Third Chapter on learning how to transition out of your career into a retirement phase. I mean, I know that keeping your hobbies has been such a big focus for my parents because, they're retiring in their early 60s. Like, that's awesome.
That is
You
awesome.
did really well for yourself.
Yeah.
And, they want out, and that's great. And they've lived their life in a way such that they can accomplish that in the way that works for them.
Yeah.
It's not that they're being forced out for health. They've got, my brother and I in a position where we can do it. And so they're stepping away slowly. And, Dad came in earlier. Mom raised us for a little while. So Dad's leaving earlier, which was fine because his position's trained out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're good. He can leave, and keeping your hobbies has been so important in that process. But I'm watching our director of operations. He was our general manager. We'll go through that here in a couple of minutes. But he's the biggest task ahead of him. He's like, I don't know what I want to do when I retire. And it's now like causing him to lose sleep.
Oh.
And so I think that this comes about. Everybody experiences this. And it could be something huge like losing weight because as you're talking accountability part, like those little tiny decisions are what makes or breaks it.
Absolutely.
And it's that ripple effect that happens. Whereas, if it's something that you understand, you can usually be like, okay, so I have this innate ability that is a terrible habit. I'm trying to break it. It's very tough. I like to understand every piece before I start something. Okay, you can research yourself into the ground and not know every variable that is coming at you.
We were just talking about this, actually. We were saying that there's a lot of people, Zach and I, that we were talking about, I watched a YouTube channel and now I know how to replace a light switch. So that makes me an electrician.
Okay, says the guy that dies from being electrocuted. Okay,
Yeah.
Make sure you turn off power before you do stupid things.
Yeah, I don't remember what brought that up. Oh, I do remember what brought that up.
But, you can do a lot of things from YouTube.
Right, but
you can learn things from TikTok, but you are not going to suddenly be
touch what Zach does.
A heart surgeon.
I will never touch what you do. I will never touch what a lot of people do. Like that's a craft, and it takes learning, and it takes
and it all comes down to understanding your tools and your skill set.
Right.
That is definitely something I want to talk about because okay, so let's talk about that. What's the holdup in eating an elephant? So whatever this huge task or this big thing is, it's usually fear of the unknown. Because fear. 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 Anytime you have a limiting belief or a negative mindset or you're being critical or judgment is coming forward in any way, shape, or form anywhere in your life. So your mother-in-law doesn't like the way you talk to her son, but she'll turn around and be a total whatever. We're not going to call names. Doesn't matter because that's a fear thing. It all goes back to fear. I'm losing my baby to his wife or whatever. I just had somebody telling me about how, and I was like, that sounds very similar to something I've experienced. Yeah. And, and I've watched it happen as I was growing up in my own family. Like, oh gosh, it's, I'm never going to make it as good as your mother. Well, it's not ever going to be the same because it's not your mother's, things like that. And I'm teaching my kids to cook. So this is coming up a little bit. So, and what were they scared of? Hey, I want you to pick a meal. I will teach you how to do it next week. And they're like, well, I don't have a recipe. I don't know what the ingredients are. And I said, what do you want to cook?
Fear of the unknown.
I will take care of that part. And then we got to it and they said, well, I don't have a recipe card. I said, no, not yet. I'm going to walk you through things that are just in my head. And then you pick next week and recipe card, we'll figure it out.
I don't ever follow a recipe.
If it's something I haven't cooked before, I'll start with one and then I adapt.
Yeah, I adapt. I don't.
Yeah, I adapt. I'll use the base.
Zach, what about you? Do you follow recipes? No?
No, he's shaking his head no.
He has a microphone, but yet he's not using it.
He's pulling it
out. When I'm actually trying to do, make something specific, I'm a C personality, so I do follow it to the letter.
Accuracy.
But I feel like you don't do that when you're editing.
That's the
That,
creative
that's
side of him.
Yeah.
that's where I'm like, yeah, I'm a CS, and the S is all the creativity.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
It's very weird. I'm a very analytical person, but when it comes to creativity, it's all
So
feeling.
when we're talking about
Interesting.
C's and S's, I should probably give a
Yeah,
little bit of
we should.
context here.
Preface.
So disc profile. So we've
Yes.
all done disc profile training, and I just had Jameson, which is a third party in Refresh,
Yes.
which these guys are part of it, as well as Jameson and I know each other from different career lives, and she came in and did an awesome one for us. So I'm an ID, like tippy top, almost off
So
the
is
charts.
Jameson. Jameson's an ID.
She's a D though.
Yeah.
She's a DD.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got some I in her, but I am an ID.
Yeah.
Now my brother totally understands why I operate the way I do. And he started to realize because he is a solid C.
Oh,
And he used to be a DC, so he's changed as time's gone
I'm
on.
a solid
'cause
I.
I could see that 100% without question. And that's
Yeah,
okay.
that's
Solid
accurate.
I am definitely an ID because I can get into hyper analytical, like results only, and in a bad part of myself, being fear driven and being a dictator. But I'm really aware of that. And it is a limiting belief. And I was called bossy as a kid all the time, and I hated it.
I'm called bougie. My friends call me a bougie princess. And if
There
you are
is
listening to this, my
absolutely
friends,
nothing wrong with that. You hate it. Do you know who I call princess in my life?
oh, who?
My brother and my husband. I even said it with the bank the other day. I was like, "Oh, just have Dewey sign
And
right
with
there
that,
where it says princess." That's okay. It's just because they need more than I do. I know how to anticipate my own needs, and I'm usually prepared.
I think I'm a high I, and I'm the only high I with like everybody I associate with in work and everybody that is in my circle.
Yeah.
So I am a princess.
Well, out of the family, because we had to do it for family succession planning. So we started our process in 2017 to take over the company. Now, mind you, my brother and I are generation 4 at the greenhouse. So you really have to kind of map that out. And the first thing the bank made you do was take disc profile. And I'm the cheerleader of the family.
Interesting.
I'm the only I in the whole group.
The bank made you take a disc profile?
They say it's the first thing to understand the personalities in which you're working with so that you're most effective in working with one another.
High five to that bank.
Oh, hell yeah. Northwest Farm Credit Services. Booyah.
But that's like,
Yeah, ag lender, 100%. Because like there's a ton of awesome local banks around
but
here.
still.
But
like,
our ag lender is one of a kind, and they are outstanding. They
That's
are
great.
just
That's
a
great.
kick-ass organization.
and see,
I have nothing but
yeah,
wonderful
before
things to say.
Jameson came in and did the disc for us, I was like, oh, whatever. And then reading it, now I understand Zach. And it's not that Zach is, needing to be in his hole and ignore me and doesn't want to talk to me.
No,
It's just he's in
his
the
brain
zone,
works differently.
and that's
than
where
yours.
his brain works.
100%.
And when he's ready to talk and be energetic and want to come, he'll come over and wheel his chair into my office and we'll have a little old chit chat.
And then you're fine.
And then
And
I'm fine.
it fuels you.
Yeah.
It feeds you.
Yep.
But once you understood that, again,
I
fear of
didn't
the
take
unknown.
it personal.
You didn't take it personal.
Yeah.
I was just telling Jameson that I like when people are in the morning, like the office, and they're here because I fill up my social meter in about 10 minutes of talking
Yeah.
to people, and
then
then
you're
I
good.
go into my little editing hovel, close the door, and I'm done.
I have to be very strategic about how I spend the first hour of my day. Because if I don't just go in and do something to check off my list, like one done before one kind of Brennan Burchard approach, I'll get sucked into all my other crews. So I try to complete a task before I go do the loop with my team. And because I run several teams now. So I have to check in with the management all the time. And they know to call me ahead if they need me. But yeah, eating an elephant one bite at a time. So times this has happened. So I had to learn how to do our schedules. So schedules is like, okay, Moss Greenhouses grows thousands of different things. How do I get those to all be ready at the right time? One really hellacious Excel document.
No,
I
thanks.
didn't know how to do functions.
Yeah.
So I, sat down. I actually took somebody with me and we both went and did an Excel training, CSI Workforce Development, 5 classes, really dug in. And then we pulled in somebody who used to work for us, built the structure. And I now know how to do that. That was scary as hell. Scary as hell.
Yeah.
But I just had to jump in one step at a time because I was not going to be able to spec out all the challenges. I I knew basics. Hey, I need to understand functions. I need to know how to tie these all together. I need to know how to pull the query so that I can run reports.
Yeah.
I've got to know how this talks to that, how that talks to this. And believe me, there was errors. And not big ones, but enough that will complicate a crew and take several of your labor hours at a very inopportune time on the worst week. Oh, buddy, we've been through those. And we've been doing this for a couple of years now. And it doesn't always go smooth. But here's the best part. I embrace failure. I learn more from failure than I've ever learned from success.
Mm.
So I'm not somebody who I believe firmly in failure. I believe that the strongest people have failed the biggest. And if you are not failing regularly, you are not trying hard enough. If your goals don't scare the living shit out of you, you are not shooting high enough.
There's A, B, and C goals.
Explain that.
An A goal is a goal that you know how to achieve.
Don't mind me while I sip.
No,
my
you're fine.
cider here.
An A goal is a goal you know how to achieve. You know the pathway. You know what's going to happen. It's an achievable goal. A B goal is a goal that, okay, you see it's there.
Yeah.
You know kind of a
You can
pathway.
probably get to
You
it.
can probably get to it. A C goal is one like my C goal is to own an Audi R8.
Okay.
And to pay cash for it and to make $350,000 a year.
That's a seagull. Okay.
It's an out
Legit.
of this world
Legit.
goal,
Okay.
but that's my goal.
And seagulls can fly.
Oh dear.
To elaborate.
Seagulls.
Oh. Oh gosh.
it's a-
Yep.
it's
See,
a
that's
high
the
in the
Friday
sky
effect
goal.
that's happening as I sip on the
Yeah.
cider.
And they still French fries.
Yeah.
And they still.
But like a
french
B
fries.
goal for me would be I'm going to buy a new house.
And is a dog.
Like
Beagle.
a B. Yeah. A B.
I'm not helping. I'm going to be quiet.
Okay. Good Zach.
I like the dad jokes
Oh,
coming from Zach and
dear.
his beanie over here. So we just filmed a previous podcast
And
where
he's
we
finished his beer and the other drink.
We had to go get ice from the bar downstairs
Oh,
so
dear.
we could do non-alcoholic mixers. So as a bartering chip, we bought one beer.
Oh my heavens.
And it's he is now socially elixired and
He
livened.
is. Yes.
Because
What's
those
up?
were the two non-alcoholic mixers we had.
Welcome to Zach that we were at Kodo
After-
that one time. Remember we were at
Oh,
Kodo?
yeah, he was social.
He was so social.
Yeah, see?
This
It
is
can
social,
happen.
Zach.
It's a seagull.
And a beagle.
What's the eagle?
What's the eagle? Like Lego my ego?
It sounds like boggle mixed with egg or something.
Eagle?
Eggle.
Yeah.
Eagle.
It
It's
sounds
breakfast.
like Igor.
Eggle, yeah,
It's
sounds like a
breakfast.
Denny's dish.
It's breakfast.
Oh dear.
Moon's over my hammy.
That is still the best name for a dish for a
He is
corporate
cracking
structure.
up.
Oh, we're doing this more often. We're gonna come up with a different.
He just snorted.
Yes, he did. It's great. It's great. Okay,
I'm
so
detracting. Go ahead.
Zach, do you have an eating the elephant project that you've had to do before? That's just been like, oh my god, how the hell am I gonna do this?
I can
I'm
name
a
few.
videographer, so of course.
Okay, so it happens on the reg.
Yeah.
I think your project that we're working on still,
Yeah, that's
There-
why I'm not.
I think
I'm
that
not
one-
taskmaster. On
that one
anymore,
to
which
me,
is a
like
beautiful thing.
I get the script and it's very well written. And I look at it and I'm like,
Holy
forward.
dear God. Hey, I tried to just attach all
Forward.
of you on it because that. Okay, so
And-
big scary
yeah.
things.
Yeah, that's a big scary
Yeah,
thing in
that's
my
big
mind.
scary things.
Yeah.
I still remember when in passing to the family. Okay, so dad had a couple of rules with us taking over the business. Like, first off, you had to go far enough away to college that you couldn't come home to do your laundry on the weekends because he didn't want me to be BSU Bronco because we're vandals. Okay, so
Woo.
that's a thing.
Represent.
So yeah, and mind you, I married a Bronco.
Oh.
I love him dearly. I just don't count him as a Bronco. We call it good. And
we can forgive people's
yeah,
faults.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
where
Only
did
went for a
Dewey, where did
semester.
Dewey go to school?
Dewey is a coyote from College of Idaho.
Oh.
Yeah, he has a finance degree and business degree from up there.
Interesting.
Wow.
He's a ski racer. So my 2 degrees, because dad said I'll pay for 5 years. So I was like, how much education can I get in 5 years?
A
I
lot.
didn't want to be an architect, or I
Mm-mm.
could have had a master's in that. And I don't want to build things, not
No.
like that. So I got a public relations degree and a communication studies with a psych background degree with a specialization in large event planning. I graduated in 2008 when the
Wow.
recession hit.
Oh,
And that was the one
no.
job everybody cut. So talk
No.
about eating an elephant. I had moved to Portland and the unemployment rate was 13%. I took a job with Northwestern Mutual to sell life insurance. Couldn't buy my own product. Ended up working at a hotel front desk and being a professional dog walker for a crazy lesbian who then fired me to make room for her Italian love slave. Oh yeah, I can tell you that's a whole nother tangent.
Sounds like a skit show, and that sounds like 3 separate
buddy.
skits.
And I'm just gonna sit back here and where's the popcorn?
You literally live.
Oh yeah.
Like, have you ever watched Portlandia?
Oh yeah.
That sounds like 3 skits from Portlandia.
100%. And I've got much more interesting stories that are not
Oh,
Twin Falls
wow.
podcast friendly and
That's a separate
acceptable
podcast. We're starting a new
the,
podcast.
for the Red Wing state that we live in this nice conservative environment. That will be a separate TikTok channel.
I'm so excited.
Okay, so the thing we keep talking about, so there has been a very large development at Moss Greenhouses. We've transitioned ownership.
We're talking about that now?
Yeah, we can talk about that
Oh.
now. So my big elephant, I'm CEO now.
I think I've known for like 4 months. I've been really good and kept quiet.
Okay, so first off, terror. Like, okay, excitement. We start there. We figure out the plan. My brother and I sat down. We figured out the org chart, kind of where we were going to head. Really had it mapped, right? The hardest thing was, figuring out where to move the right bodies because we're trying to kind of thin it out so there's less chiefs, more Indians in an efficiency standpoint. Not like from a roles and responsibility standpoint, but we wanted to funnel the message, finite the target. It's like taking the sight on a gun and really getting it to aim at the right target, right?
Which, by the way, congratulations.
Thanks.
That's never officially been said.
Thanks.
And Zach, you can add some like claps in there from like an audience that's like fake. And, like, cheese.
Thanks, future Zach. That was great.
Suddenly there's fireworks in the screen.
in the screen.
So
Explosion.
I got the excitement. And, everything was under wraps for a while, right? Kept it, because we were still trying to figure out the logistics. And you don't want to just say, hey, she's going to be in charge and not have a plan because then you create unrest because there's just unknowns.
Then
Again,
you're
fear of the
stuck
unknown.
on half of the mountain.
Exactly. And they have no
you have to
gear to go
wait.
any further.
Yeah.
They have no coats and it's a snowstorm.
Or you're stuck on the tusk of an elephant.
Or
Because
it's
can't.
stuck in your teeth and
That's
you're
what I'm
choking.
saying. You're
There's a
choking.
bad TikTok video we watched right before this. The TikTok just keeps coming up. All right, we'll stop there because that is not going to transition well.
If you want to hear the free podcast, you can subscribe and pay $5.99 a month.
So the next phase I hit was blatant blind terror. And it was like several weeks of nightmares and just like, oh, shit.
Because one day you went from like minuscule debt to
Well, and that's more of a closed door conversation. But yeah, you get to see all the big numbers, the big documents. You'd seen them in passing prior, but I went from director of sales and marketing managing, about 8 people directly, but like a team of up to 30 people to 3 massive departments. And I'm now in charge of 80 plus people.
didn't you have 154 last year?
167 at peak.
Yeah. That's insane.
And we should never really go over 120, 140 because we're very seasonal. It's ag. So, and we just got to button up some processes. We're suffering kind of like the hangover of COVID and the labor struggles. And we still got labor struggles, but we're adapting to that, right? So that's why we work with Refresh to help. We're trying to redesign our entire onboarding process. So straight terror for a long time. And then I started to have imposter syndrome. And I'm like, what if I can't do this? What if nobody wants to work
You
for me?
did?
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Really?
Yeah. No. And I got to share those struggles and be open about them because honestly, I think that people see me like, because you can speak to this.
Never thought
I come across and I present as a very confident person.
Yeah.
But I have
Except
insecurities.
when you're reading a script here at Moss Greenhouses.
Oh, the cut for okay. So I listen to instructions very well when I am not in charge of a project. And if somebody has a vision, I try not to disrupt
You did a really
that.
good job.
I did exactly what he asked me to do,
It
and
was that.
it's because you guys know me in
Yeah.
real life.
Yeah.
You know the real Jen.
Yeah.
It's giving sensual Walt Disney.
Oh God. I was just like, he's
Well,
like,
that
okay,
went
so
dark.
the video's going to come this way and you're going to say this and you're going to look up and Dewey's not going to look at the camera and you're just going to keep going. And it was just like, okay, Dave, that's what I'm going to do. All right.
I mean,
and
he
I
did
just
a
go.
really good job, but I looked at it and I like, because Zach, that's his mountain that he created into this beautiful like rainforest.
Yes.
And I don't know why a mountain would create into a rainforest, but
Don't,
whatever.
so don't
I mean,
overthink it.
yeah.
When I was watching, I was like, wow, this is really good. And then
You
I
see
like,
me.
your part came and I'm like,
What the hell?
what the hell? Like, I think I said it out loud too. I was like, is she okay?
I was following instructions.
I know. I was like,
I
what?
did exactly what he asked me to. Zach was there because he had the camera. Like, I did exactly what Dave told me to do.
And
Verbatim.
I did exactly what Dave
Yep.
pictured
And
for me.
that was exactly what, and it looks good. And had you not known me, and
It's
from-
very professional
Correct.
for what you're using them
for what I'm using it
They're
for
very
the
great.
audience, that's
Yes.
what they need to see of me.
Yes.
The real Jen, they will see in the company meetings on the regular basis in passing, and then I'll be other pieces of other videos.
Yeah.
So
We
one
should
of
have,
this,
like
huh?
we should have like the alternate cut where
Right?
you're like at a kitchen table with a smut novel and you're like at Moss Green.
yes,
We
with a
let it all
glass
hang
of wine,
loose.
with my socks on the table,
Yeah.
with like something I've seen
Yeah,
written on the
we
bottom
did,
of them.
We did talk about this yesterday with Dave, is that we really want to joke and be like, when they were talking about your smoking area, because that's
Yeah.
a huge thing for
That's
you
a
guys.
big thing for us.
And we were like, but there is a special greenhouse in the back.
The one
That we
that's blurred
don't
out
let-
on Google
The one that's
Yeah.
blurred out on Google Maps.
that the cops don't know about. Oh yeah, and here's the chief listening to this video right now. Who's a good friend of mine.
We're
Hi,
just
Craig.
joking.
How's
We're
it
just
going?
joking.
Department of Ag's there every day.
Yeah.
If it was gonna happen, they would know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was this big moment of imposter syndrome where I literally was like, oh God, oh God, oh God. And I had conversations of where the company was going without being like extremely detailed. There was some buzz. They kind of had an idea, but no like solid anything. And literally we sit down to have the company meeting to show the new org chart without names in it. And like we say, this person is this person, because a true org chart just shows positions, right? In the flow.
Right.
And literally everybody just looks at me and goes, well, duh. And I was like, I have been losing sleep over this.
So is that the moment that it clicked and you got over it, or was there?
It definitely took the overwhelming down. But then I caught myself in this moment like, I have an elephant to eat. So when you're looking at this massive, like you have all these different departments, all these different projects going on, how do you funnel your energy? What do you approach first? And so I literally was like, okay, I need a warboard on my wall. I need to know what I'm working on. I need to compartmentalize. And then, triage effect. What's red? What's orange? What's green? What's the most important thing first? And I'm also making a huge shift. We are changing the entire focus of our company away from plants. Now, I know I say that out loud and everyone's like, what in the hell? Like moss greenhouse? Yes, it is. So our focus as a company has always been top quality plants, top customer service. Well, all we're doing is shifting to our most important asset, which is our people. So we are really funneling in on our core team, supporting them, enriching them, growing them, pushing them, and really just getting down and giving them all the tools they need and training them to do the job in the best way possible. Again, these, you guys are helping us with this huge onboarding video training project. And really the idea is if I hire less people, paying them more, and really get them enriched into the Moss culture, and it's such a badass place to work that people are like, I want to work here.
But I'm learning things too, not just like, because I'm not an employee, but
No,
like
you're
the time
just-
that I'm spending there, I'm learning, and I love my plants, but I'm learning more
And do you
things
see the
about my
culture
plants.
of our people?
Absolutely.
I've got
They're-
some
yeah.
great folks. And so,
So Zach and I were actually saying yesterday, just a little real quick.
Oh, let's hear it.
There was one lady, and I don't remember her name, and we won't name names, but she was super polite to the dude. She was like, hey, can you just make sure they're pushed this way a little bit? They're getting caught on this corner here. And I thought to myself, oh, hell, I could never work here because I'm not polite. And
Not everybody's polite.
I know, but like, and then there was other circumstances where like the conversation was just polite and like then there was funny jargon, and then there was like, well, we don't ever do this, so it's weird feeling like when we were filming certain things, and it was just, and I was like, oh, is this what normal's like? Because I don't work in normal.
No, a lot of people do work in normal.
Right.
But-
And for me, that's weird because I just have weird work environment things, but I don't always have.
Thanks.
That's
It's all
okay.
about you,
It's
Zach.
actually not you.
No, but like Zach and I were saying, like, we don't think that we could work in like that kind of style because we're not HR appropriate most of the time.
So we're not all the time either.
Oh, right.
But on
like,
video, when you're filming, we are.
I don't think we are on video either.
Well, and you guys have gotten to know me, and
Yeah.
and if you're watching the podcast regularly, like I don't fit into a box.
No, but the culture
And I can
there
adapt.
is amazing. Like,
Well, and we've worked really hard on it the last couple of years. I'm expecting to take this to a very high level
well, I think you need to plug yourself though too, because you're the biggest greenhouse.
in the Intermountain West. Yeah, I mean
That's
there
a
are
big
bigger
thing.
growers than me, but they're doing box.
But that's a big
They're
thing.
doing Walmarts and Home Depots.
Yeah.
I mean, there's bigger greenhouses than me, but we are servicing. So a lot of people think we just have the store. So let's break this down. Okay, CEO of a little retail greenhouse. No, that's
But that's
not,
what I
that's
that's
not
what I
took on.
thought until
I know.
like
So
we've gotten to
let's-
know each other and
Let's
learn.
define what Moss is. So I won't share budget numbers, but what I will say is retail in Jerome, Idaho is 15% of my business. That's it. 85 of it's wholesale. That is over 350 different delivery locations across 8 different states in an 800-mile radius of Jerome, Idaho with a full semi fleet. I have 12 weeks to make the entire year's income. No pressure. And I start the year in the hole because I'm a farmer in a box. So when I have men, and I'm going to pick on the gender card here for a second, being a female CEO, first off, I am a rarity.
Yeah.
And I sit at board tables.
And you're young.
With, I'll just pick on it, the old white man, the CEO, which is fine. It is what it is, but diversification and changing what the face of horticulture, that is a focus of our industry. We are working on it very heavily, both in-house and on an industry level, on both the state and the national level, because I do sit on the state board. I am an offshoot of the national board. I am very involved because ultimately, who am I going to call locally that I don't compete with to ask a question?
But that's one thing you have done differently.
I have done differently.
Is you have I'm gonna plug them. You and Windsor are friends.
Yeah, we're buddies.
And like watching you two interact and talk about like
We're friends.
your
yeah.
strengths and your weaknesses, and then she's like, "Why didn't you tell me about your podcast?" You know, like these things.
Yeah, that's who you were talking to.
You-
Do
yeah.
you have a podcast?
Like
when
you-
did you start that? And you're like, March.
But
I'm
you've
like,
done that
"Oh,
differently,
yeah, I guess I did.
right? But you've done that differently.
We became friends.
Yeah.
Like that was important to me. Also, I truly believe everything comes back to your core values, right? So self-awareness is a superpower. I know exactly what MOS stands for.
Mm-hmm.
MOS stands for integrity and honesty. With that comes transparency. And transparency is not a baby boomer value. And baby boomers are who are phasing out of companies. And my dad would be the first one to tell you, sometimes you say too much. And I'm like, hold on, I'm not saying anything that's going to hurt anybody, first off. Second off, if everybody understands the vision, will they shoot at the same goal? Will they translate the vision to work for them? If I explain why I do something some way, maybe the employee will save themselves 5 steps instead of reinventing the process and just tailor what I'm doing to work for their process. And they still accomplish the same goal.
Agree.
And so what we're trying to do is just build this culture. And it's scary as hell. Like taking on CEO, like, oh my God. I'm still having like, oh, is this the right decision? Oh. But I sit and go, okay, what are our core values? Integrity. Am I living with integrity? Are my intentions and my actions aligned with one another? Am I I always take on projects that are labor savers or killers right away. If something is costing me money by the hour, by the person, it's an immediate focus because I need to make it so that they can continue to do their job because I'm losing dollars for every time that happens. Anytime we're in a meeting, that's $100 a person per hour as
Wow.
far as I'm concerned. So I want to be very efficient with that hour. If I'm going to take 10 of my best people and put them in a meeting for an hour, that's $1,000 before I've done anything. Because if I can value it that way, I can say, okay, could this be an email? Let's start there. Could this be an email with an action item at the end? If you're just sending an email to send an email or to hear yourself talk, like, okay, what was your goal? That must have been an A goal.
Oh.
You just wanted to hear yourself talk. Sometimes I'll ask that question. I actually heard this piece of management advice. I was at the national board meeting for American Hort this week. They said, get one of those hourglass timers. It's a 3-minute timer. And when people come to your desk, because everybody there is either an owner or a major manager in a company in horticulture in any sector, right? Say, somebody comes to complain to you, flip it over. When there's no sand left, they're done complaining.
That's a great idea.
I loved it. It's in my Amazon cart still. I just haven't bought it yet.
Yeah.
But I'm literally going to start employing this because ultimately as we were talking about disc, I'm an ID. So I am action to the core. And my brother's a solid C. My mom's a solid C. My dad and I he's more of a D. And so what I find is I am so action driven, but I understand enough of the C because I've been around it so long that I have to I tailor to them faster because I'm a little more adaptable. C's are very, structured.
Are you a high D?
I'm like at the top.
And you're adaptable?
I am very adaptable.
So that's interesting. For those of you that haven't taken disc, where you lie in the circle, if you're closer to the middle, you're more adaptable to those around you.
Yeah.
So
I shade into collaboration really heavy. I'm very team oriented, and I present as very dominant and confident. But you put me in a team environment, I will guide the conversation, identify strengths, and task it out. I don't micromanage. Maybe.
You should ask Jameson.
I should.
Yeah.
I'm going to see her soon.
Yeah.
I wonder if I'm a unicorn.
You should ask
I don't
her
know.
if you're a unicorn.
I'm very adaptable. And
yeah.
I that's a strength because I think as a CEO, there are plenty of CEOs that are A-type, control, they have to understand every piece of everything. I truly believe you can teach a speed reader to read faster, or you teach a reader to be a speed reader. Which one's going to be more effective? Speed reader. Reading faster. Because it's a skill set. It's a strength they already have. If you focus on somebody's weakness and only factor in on their weaknesses, you are not going to succeed. If you factor on your strengths and hire for your weaknesses, you're unstoppable. We will put explicit words in
do
this
PR.
podcast. And,
yeah, there needs to be a warning.
Cuss words. I am 100% myself most of the time. I have to kind of tailor it a little bit for the public image, but ultimately at the end of the day, the only person that's usually standing in somebody's way is themselves. And I firmly believe, and this is the only reason I come across as confident as I am, and I'm not scared to climb the mountain or eat the elephant or whatever. I firmly believe what other people think of you is none of your business. I do not care what people think of me. It does not matter to me. As soon as you divorce what other people's opinions of you are, you get to live your life the way you want to. Because ultimately, who do you have to live with at the end of the day? Quit caring what people think. It does not matter. I look at my kids anytime there's something that's the end of the world. Because I have 2 11-year-olds. Because everything's the end of the world.
And mind you, they're girls.
Yeah. There's my stepdaughters. And I think this is karma balancing the world. Because I was a terrible small human. And that's okay. So I will ask my kids 3 questions. I go, okay, will this matter in a year? Well, yeah. Okay. Will it matter in 5 years? Well, probably not. I said, will it matter in 10? And they say, no. I said, okay, if you answered no to any of these questions, you need to take a deep breath. Now I'm going to ask you the 4th question. What is the only thing you can control? Myself. I'm like, okay. What's your plan going forward? And the more you can do that with your employees, to a certain degree, respectfully, without being demeaning, it puts the power in their hands and they start to solve things by themselves. And I also look at managers and say, you know what? You suck at delegation. Hire somebody to do it. Who's your second?
Yep.
I mean, gosh, we've got a position and a person that's been in it for 18 years. She's awesome. at her job. And she's one of our killer, awesome employees. She's really flourished in the last couple of years. She is kicking ass and taking names. She will always get the job done, but she'll do it herself.
Mhm.
And she doesn't delegate. And it stretches her, and it affects her home life. It affects her health. It affects her sleep. She can't do that. And so she actually hired a body out from under me in my department. She's one of like these subtle, quiet people. And she's like, I'll fist fight you.
Oh.
And I was like, well,
Well, you
I
won.
think you can keep him.
Yeah.
And he's actually a good friend of ours. But he, Sun Valley Company during the pandemic, they didn't have work. And I was able to grab him and keep him. And she had work before I had work in another department. And he's become her rock star. And he runs the facility for her and manages her whole team. And suddenly she's shining because of hiring her weakness to cover her. So that's kind of like one of those things, first on, identify that there's fear of the unknown. And then when you're going to eat an elephant, assess what are your skills and your strengths, and what tools do you have? Where are your gaps? Reverse engineer it, because I recommend, and this is something to put on your reading list. I listened to a podcast, Rachel Hollis, and Benjamin, and I forget his last name, but the book is The Gap and the Gain. So if you look back 3 years ago, would you be proud of yourself today?
Yes.
100%, right? But when you were 3 years ago looking forward, you go, how the hell am I ever going to get there?
Abso-freaking-lutely.
Okay, so what I say when you're eating an elephant, following the logic of this book, and it's two gentlemen that kind of wrote the book together, and an older gentleman that had figured out this strategic leadership, like full on just a fire, like he's the old version of Tony Robbins kind of. And then, and I'm making a terrible reference, not remembering their names, but, and this Ben gentleman has really just like kind of restructured and presented the idea. And so, okay, I'm CEO of a company. What has to be true for that to be a thing? Reverse engineer what you want. Okay, you want to make $350,000 and buy an Audi R8 in cash. Okay, what has to be true for you to have those things? So start lining that out. So right now, my B goal, all right, is probably like a BC goal. I don't know if you've got a dad joke for that, Zach.
Yeah,
you start thinking about it.
BCs?
BC goals.
I'm just thinking about how a D goal is a gun. So
Oh,
why does this apply to everything but the A?
I love it. So my big kind of BC goal is to be in the best shape of my life by the time I'm 40. 37 and a half now. I have to define what the best shape of my life is. So it's mental, physical, spiritual health. So I did something that I'm effing terrified of.
Oh yeah, I'm excited for you.
I'm so scared. But I am so strapped, like with my job, family, and just life, that I can't be redesigning something. And I've been thinking about this for years. I just haven't had the balls to do it. So doing it. I'm gonna start CrossFit.
I'm so excited.
I'm still like a little like I've got like I want to throw up a
I
little
think
bit
you
in
need
my
to go
mouth.
live afterwards.
I'm gonna give it a month. Well, maybe I need to do little TikTok check-ins or something.
Yeah.
So I had to define, like I literally have a page going in my journal of, okay, best shape of your life by 40. And I'm defining it on one side. And I literally have written on the other side, in order for that to happen, what has to be true. And I am literally filling that out and writing it down and I'm also marinating with it because I'm trying to heal some past trauma that happened to me when I was a teen that was pretty substantial that I thought I'd swallowed down and dealt with, but I never had, that has come cropping back up. Your 30s is for trauma healing.
Amen.
I've decided. Oh my God. I have so many friends who are going through this too. So your 30s is a time where you get to relive traumas you have not dealt with and they come glaring into your life.
They're fun.
Well, trauma and conflict are a tunnel. So you're going to have to go through the tunnel. It's getting used to the tunnel, getting your flashlight and your candle and your blankie if you need it, and being able to have the right shoes on to get all the way through.
Yeah. I told Jameson and Zach this morning, I said, I've realized my own worth and I'm adding tax.
Yeah. Do you know that anytime I'm asked to do something, I kind of account, I cost $100 an hour to get my time.
My mom does that. When I was pregnant, I was like, we should make these blankets. And she's like, no, I'm just going to buy them. I'm like, they're like $500. And she's like, but for me to take the
They'll
time.
take 20 hours for me to do.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you can't afford me.
It's solid. Understand your value. Self-awareness is
Got
a
that from my
superpower,
mom.
dude. Yeah. So start to ask yourself, like when you're looking at an elephant, right? Whatever that elephant is for you, whether it's, losing 100 pounds or buying a house or paying down $100,000 worth of student loans or debt or becoming CEO of your company or taking on a completely different career or, losing your job and how am I going to attack? Like there's always something, right?
Mhm.
So where do you want to go? First off, and celebrate the wins. Because we have a tendency to be such a negative culture just because of kind of the nature of how life works in
Mhm.
America. We are never seeing our worth because we're always comparing ourselves to everyone else. First off, comparison is the thief of joy. The only person that understands your path is you. This is why I hold space for everybody in their journey. As long as they're not being mean and spiteful, you get space. End of story. Doesn't mean you get time because time is currency.
Right.
Energy is currency. And I firmly practice this. Like I'll have somebody come to me and like, I need 2 hours of your time. I said, you get 3 minutes. What do you need to say? Be concise. You can plan for the 3 minutes if you need to prep for it. I don't care. But if I don't have that time to give you, I'm not going to. And an emergency on your part does not constitute an emergency on mine. We experienced this yesterday.
Mhm.
I didn't have the time. I couldn't fix the problem. The person that was coming to me with the problem could fix the problem.
And it was great.
And they kicked butt at it. So it's just, and it wasn't their making. It wasn't their fault.
Mhm.
But they were the solution to their own problem.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes people just have to, 20 seconds of insane courage. It's how I started talking to my husband. It's how I signed up for a CrossFit class. It's how I had a hard conversation with the family to say, you know what, I'm ready to run this company. That's scary. And you have to be your own advocate. You are the only one who understands your skill set. So that's how you eat an elephant one bite at a time. I feel like not enough as I've been doing my own research on how do you become a CEO. There is not very good
Is there a
information out
CEO
there.
for a Dummies book?
Not, yes, but it's written by a man.
Okay.
Not that that's a bad thing,
Oh.
but it's the way men look at work
It's different.
and the way that women look at work
Mhm.
are definitely different. And women, if you look at the numbers for results, women are much better performers as CEOs than men are. We have a different skill set. Our brains are actually wired differently. And that actually is an advantage at the end of the day. If you have the right amount of your personality that you can stay focused, because men will lose it as soon as you get the emotions involved, all the fluffy stuff. They lose energy. They lose focus. Their attention wanes. So that's the key thing about understanding what your intention is and the action behind it and staying focused on your goals. And knowing that sometimes you're going to take 3 steps forward and 5 steps back. But that's still progress because you've got to learn in the failure, embrace the suck, and just keep moving forward. Sometimes you can't look ahead. You got to look at your feet to make sure that you've got footing. But that's okay. You can do it. And I would probably channel my inner Rachel Hollis here for a hot second and say, you can do hard things.
Mhm.
All of us can. It doesn't matter how hard it is. Sometimes you just got to embrace the suck and keep going. I have no homework. I really don't. But if you haven't listened to The Gap in the Gain, and I listen to a lot of books like that, because sometimes you just don't have the time to sit down, and then I can multitask. Gap in the Gain, it's solid.
Okay.
It helped me break things down. Also, Speak by Tunde. I don't know if you guys have listened to that. It's
Mm-mm.
incredible. She's my favorite Peloton instructor. And for the women, I don't think that's a book for men, but the 2 things that come up in that book, and she, people go, why me? And Robin looks at her, who's one of the fitness VPs at Peloton, and goes, why not you? And the thing I'm having to mourn in this situation, because you got to mourn your old self, right? And people don't give space for
Mhm.
that. I'm having a hard time transitioning to the new chapter because I'm still attached to the old one because of fear of the unknown of the new chapter. So my homework for myself is I am closing a chapter so that I can start my new one in entirety.
Burn the bridges.
Well, not burn them, but I'm going to redirect the water so that the bridge isn't available.
Yeah.
It might need to be there for the next guy. I'm trying to burn it, but I am going to make it inaccessible for me. I don't need it.
Perfect.
Yeah. With that, go live life in full color because living life plainly is kind of boring. All right. Have a lovely Tuesday, folks.